My sweet, sweet angel, Ty, this is the first podcast where you are directly behind me and I see you in front of me and behind me.
Because you have eyes at the back of your head. And by eyes, I mean my camera. Are we doing a video podcast? No, but we have a guest who is remote.
Yeah.
So super excited about that. Super excited to share about free-range honeybees.
Oh, I had a strange dream last night that I guess we talked about. I was at this free-range bee farm, which if you try to picture that, Ty, it's basically a nightmare. You just walk up to these picnic tables and these bees were just like everywhere.
Dude, save it for the podcast.
My kitty's now fast asleep, I can pour myself a glass. But too many shows on Netflix are trash, it makes me wanna pass. I can't figure out what to watch, what am I supposed to do? Let's get drunk and rewatch cartoons when we were little dudes. Do-do-do-do-do-do-do, Whiskeylodeon.
All right, so yes, we have a guest. We have dreams about free-range honeybees, but let's go ahead and bring on our guest. We have one of the hosts of Yay Dude, the only Hey Dude rewatch podcast out there. So she is our resident expert on the show. Please welcome Teresa. I cannot pronounce her last name.
That's it. That's my last name. That's how it's pronounced.
Last name.
Yes.
I was stressing so hard on that.
Do you really want me to say it? I can.
Yes,
It's
please.
Zaleski.
Oh, it's just Zaleski. Okay.
Zaleski. Yeah. I actually just learned about my last name yesterday that it's a hypercorrection to put that W in there because it's a Polish last name and they just think, oh, you're supposed to put W's in, but you don't pronounce it.
So I'm going to ask this because either this was just a happenstance or you wanted to be so prepared for our podcast that you did research on your own last name.
No, I love Wikipedia and I just get into black holes. In fact, on our show, we have a segment where I go through one of my Wikipedia black holes called WikiTIA.
Oh, that's so much
So
fun.
yeah, I just was looking up my own last name.
Well, before we get in, I know it is early in the morning for you, but we are so grateful that you have joined us as far as enjoying this wonderful cocktail, our blackberry bourbon lemonade. So it is delicious for us. How has it been for you?
It is good. I don't usually drink bourbon at 10 in the morning. I'm a little light on the bourbon today because I am coaching kindergarten soccer later this afternoon, and I think they tend to frown upon drunk coaches, but
well,
shouldn't
that
you be
depends.
drinking more bourbon?
Do you feel like you become a better coach with more bourbon?
I think I would feel like I become a better coach. Yes, I do.
And it's
I
all
think
about
that is the way that would go.
confidence.
I mean, we're on a bell curve. We're always on a bell curve, you know. For a little bit, yeah, I think so.
Yeah.
But then
I
a change
think that
occurs.
there's a good chance that my childhood coaches for soccer were probably also drinking, so it's fine.
You're just filling tradition.
Oh, it's
I
the
am.
same way like when your teacher rolls in the TV and they're like, it's a movie day. You're like, oh, you're either drunk or hungover right now. And I appreciate
Definitely.
that. Yeah. I can't tell you how many times I watched October Sky in middle school.
Oh, that is a great movie.
It's so
That
good.
brings
I
back
think-
memories.
Or Remember
Now
the
I'm
Titans. It
realizing
was
that's
one of those
probably
two.
why I watched it. Oh,
Yeah,
yeah.
right.
I used to teach, and I definitely would play Remember the Titans.
Oh, yeah.
Quite a bit. Mm-hmm.
Good old hangover days.
Well, we want to hear about your podcast, and we also want to hear what got you into Hey Dude the way that it has.
Yeah. Where should I start? I mean, I live and breathe Hey Dude at this point. I'm a TV person. We are raising our child in the same tradition of TV. Just watch it. It's great. It's fine. You'll be fine. We got cable, I think, when I was about 6. And this is probably one of the first Nickelodeon shows I watched, if not the first Nickelodeon show. It came out in 1989 and I loved it because I just turned 40. So I'm an older millennial. And I think this show was written for kids a little bit older, but my siblings were older than me. And I thought, oh, here's a glimpse. This is teenhood. This is what I need to do to be a cool teen.
Well, this will prepare
just-
me.
Yeah, I loved it. And then when my co-host Jess, who is unfortunately not able to join us today, she's not feeling well. She and I met because we were randomly paired together as college roommates, and we were in our own bunk beds. And one night I was like, do you remember that show, Hey Dude, from the 90s on Nickelodeon? She's like, I do. I used to watch that every day. And it just kind of started our obsession with talking about Hey Dude. And then one day we just, let's do it. Let's make a podcast about it. So here we are.
That's awesome.
Yeah.
Ours started with a party. We just wanted to have a pajama party where we invited friends and we were watching the old
Let's
Nickelodeon
be specific.
shows.
It was a onesie. It was supposed to be a onesie party.
Yes, you're right. It was a onesie.
Yeah, it's always
party.
a onesie party.
So we called it Whiskeylodeon because we had whiskey and cocktails, and then we wanted to do a podcast together. Originally, we were looking at doing like a drunk opera podcast where we would like watch operas while drunk and try to figure out what they were actually saying.
I'm not even sure how that works.
The market would have been very niche.
Right.
So, and then at that point, Sean was like, why don't we just do Whiskeylodeon? And I was like, that's amazing. And here we are.
It's brilliant. It's brilliant. The time, if I know one thing, it's that the time for Nickelodeon, 90s Nickelodeon, is actually right now.
Yeah.
It's like the resurgence of love and interest in Nickelodeon shows is wild right now. So I am super happy to be a part of it. I'm just, man, millennials, we're living our best lives right now when it comes to podcasting. Not everything, but podcasting
yes,
for sure.
Specifically, yeah. And there was that desert of accessibility too, and I think now we have access to all this, so we can rewatch and talk about it very presently. Whereas, a few moments back there was like, I really would love to watch that show, but I don't know how.
I know that was the conversation that we had in our dorm room, 20 years ago. Like, I wish there was a way to watch this. So now sky's the
Here we
limit. We
are.
can watch as
Yeah.
many old Nickelodeon shows as many times as we want. And we watch old Nickelodeon shows with my 5-year-old, and he's getting really into Hey Dude.
What are some of your favorite shows beyond Hey Dude? Very unfair question, I realize.
Do you mean Nickelodeon shows?
Sure.
Okay. So this was by far and away my favorite. I really, really preferred the shows that were, live action as opposed to cartoons. Though I was a big Doug fan. I really liked Doug. And I did a little Ren and Stimpy. But Clarissa explains it all.
Yeah.
I said the
That
exact
was
same
a
thing
big
when we
one.
talked about. I kept saying Clarissa. And I could not get it. I was like, you know what? That's what the show's called.
It might be because you drink cocktails while you record.
Yeah,
it could be part of it.
That's definitely it.
Yeah, no. Clarissa explains it all. She was actually. We can talk about all of the amazing fun things that are happening in the Hey Dude world, but yeah. So there's a lot of crossover with these teen actors in each other's various shows that they were on in the 90s. So that was another one that I loved. The Secret World of Alex Mack. Did either of you watch that one?
Yeah.
Did you? Yeah, I loved that one. Though that one at that point I was getting a little bit old, but I think it was on like in the evening, so I would watch that one. So those were probably my top. I would watch Salute Your Shorts. I think it came on after Hey Dude. And so I did that one.
I believe so.
It might have. And so that was a block. So I would watch that one. But
Same vibe.
I mean,
for
it
sure.
all,
Yeah.
like my first crush was David Lasher, who plays Ted on Hey Dude. Like 6 years old, I was like, who is that?
Who's that?
That boy is handsome.
I think Larissa Oleynik with Alex Mack might have been.
That was it for us. Yeah.
That was it for it. Yeah.
Yeah.
Shared
Yeah,
crush.
she's cutie. Definitely. I get it. One thing I'm learning through the fandom that we're a part of is that a lot of folks' first crushes came from shows on Nickelodeon that ran between about 1990 and 1994.
Yeah. Explains a lot about us.
The
that's
90s
for sure.
awakening, as it's normally called.
I like
think.
that. The 90s awakening. Wow.
I made that up, but it feels right.
I like it.
Did you just quote yourself?
As people are calling it.
People are calling. I'm gonna start. That is a level of confidence that doesn't supersede arrogance. Like, it's still humble. I like that. I'm stealing that.
Do it.
Wow.
Absolutely. So we are going to go ahead. You said that you were sharing with your 5-year-old, and he's getting into it. My kid is right now. He's into Pokemon, so it's kind of been tough because I think the only thing he's ever watched was a cartoon that came out later called Invader Zim, if you remember that.
Mm-mm.
It's a really quirky alien cartoon that Nickelodeon did, and that was the only one. And I was like, this is gonna give him nightmares, but it's the only one he wanted to watch, and I don't know where he's getting it because now we might as well just get into it.
The Teddy Report for babies.
Teddy started calling me Bebe. I was like, all right, let's go to the car. He goes, all right, Bebe. And I'm like, okay, I'll take it. And now it's transitioning where he's like, okay, dude, or no, bro. Okay, bro, let's go. And I'm like, okay, no. You can call me Bebe. I'll even take Queen. No, you're not calling me bro, dude. No.
Bebe.
He's like, all right, Bebe.
What's give me a sentence.
So just from memories vault, I was having him come out of the car. I was like, all right, but let's go inside. He goes, all right, baby, I'm coming, baby. And it's those moments where you want to laugh, but you also don't want to encourage rambunctious behavior. So and I'm probably going to eat this because I used to joke when he was before he was born. I was like, you know what? I want to teach my kid, instead of saying like, yes, ma'am, and no, sir, I want him to say, yes, queen. And I think this is just coming in a different perspective.
I think yes,
I love
bebe.
it.
Yes, bebe.
Okay, bebe.
Feels
I
right.
like it. I like that. Yeah. I get called Teresa sometimes by my son, which is weird.
He doesn't call you T?
No, he doesn't. And I don't know why. He just started kindergarten, so he's playing school with me a lot right now. And so I get called on, I'm like, oh, Teresa, please raise your hand, which is great. But every once in a while, he'll just he was born in the Midwest. We were living in the Midwest for a while. And so it's one day he bumped into me and he said, "Oh, sorry, Teresa." And he was like 2. It was amazing. It was the most Midwest thing ever. I'm like, "Oops, sorry, Teresa." And I was like, "I bumped into you, man. You don't need to be sorry."
That's almost Canadian.
So I don't
too.
get called Bebe. Oh,
Bebe.
yeah.
Yeah, I think I've told Ty this story, but yeah, I was in Canada. I have family up there, and I accidentally ran into someone else's buggy in the syrup aisle with my buggy, and they apologized to me.
Mm-hmm.
And I'm like, what?
So.
I did this. Sorry about that, Bebe.
Sorry.
Sorry, Bebe. Bebe. Oop.
No, it's a culture of always being sorry. That's very healthy. So we support that for sure.
I feel like at that point you're like, you know what? My existence
No.
is a burden, and I'm sorry that I
Yes.
inconvenienced you.
No.
My existence is is a
definitely.
bourbon.
Ooh,
They're starting to say that. They're starting to say that. Did I come up with that? No.
Who, the 5-year-olds?
The 5-year-olds, yeah.
Which, by the
Yeah.
way, a precursor, if you're 5 years old and listen to this podcast, fuck off. You don't belong here.
My son did ask me why he said, "Why can't we listen to you on the radio more often?" And his dad was like, "Because your mom cusses a lot." So we did recently come out with an episode where we did not cuss. I don't think. I can't be sure. But the sole reason was that so we could play it in the car when we were driving together. He could listen to mom on the radio.
Aww.
Was that
Yeah.
what was that like? Was there, because I feel like putting that restriction on, I would have to like pause a lot before I said anything.
There's a lot of pausing just in parenting because you're like,
Yeah.
and like my therapist was like, you just have to pause and be like, this bitch, and then you can talk. There's a lot of pausing with parenting.
We could probably stand to pause more. Sometimes I'll look back at the end of the day and like, that was a weird choice. I hope he doesn't tell his teacher about it. Oh, well.
I should not have said that. I should not have said that.
Oops.
It's a good
Sorry, baby.
it's a good internal reflection. That was a weird choice.
Yeah. It happens.
It happens.
No, raising kids is a trip. It's really funny to watch Nickelodeon shows with him. And it took a while for him to settle. The first time or two that I had him watch Hey Dude with me, he was not into it. He came down, he had his stuffed animals, he calls his friends, and he comes down, he's standing there watching it, and my heart was bursting. We're just, oh my God, I got it. I got him. We're going to watch Nickelodeon shows together. And he looks at the TV, looks at me, and he goes, well, this is boring. Come on, stuffies, let's go.
Oh,
I know.
I feel that so much because for me, I love baking. And so I was making what's called a pan d'oranzo, which is an orange cream cake, an Italian orange cream cake. And my son wanted to bake it with me. I was like, oh, this is going to be it. And he's having fun. He's stirring the batter. He's getting excited. He's seeing it rise. And then I make an orange glaze and I put it on top. And he's so excited to try it. I take a bite, love it. He takes a bite and he stops. He goes, I wanted the Walmart cake. And he starts crying. And I'm wanting to make it feel better, but also wanting to just heal from that wound. Like, how have I raised my son that he wants Walmart cake?
I don't know, but I think you need a t-shirt.
Why do you want Walmart cake? That's a good t-shirt.
It is.
But to me, TV is very important. It's just a different form of literacy in my mind. I had him stick with it. We watched a few more episodes, and now he is loving Hey Dude. He watches it with me. I get his hot takes on it for the show. So, yeah, I think that's probably one of my favorite things. And I've heard from a lot of folks of our age, older millennials who are now watching some of these shows with their kids, that they're having the same experience. It's really fun. 5 is fun. It's a trip.
It's a trip for sure. Speaking of hot takes, every episode we do fun facts. We do a little breakdown of the show. So because you're our resident expert, I want to see if there's anything that pops out to you like, so first off, the show was created by Dee LeDuc, which I'm sure you knew. Turns out Dee LeDuc was originally a receptionist at Nickelodeon before she co-created Double Dare. And at that point, she became director of programming, which is what set up Nick at Nights and also creating Hey Dude. We also have it that this was shot at Tanque Verde Guest Ranch. I'm not sure how to pronounce that.
We say Tanque Verde, and we are actually going to be going there at the beginning of November.
Oh, that's super exciting.
Yeah. Yes. And we're going to, I'll let you finish the fun fact and I'll see.
So apparently this was the first production in 12 years to film in Arizona, just because the last one was 1976. It was some legal drama that lasted 2 seasons.
I thought you were going to say the last one was 12 years before that. For math.
Yeah, it was 12 years prior to
the 12-year
88 when this was filming.
Yeah. Math is fun.
Math is fun.
Yeah.
It's 5 seasons long, but it's all supposed to happen during one summer, and it took 2 years to film. They only gave them 3 days an episode to film. And then the show was canceled due to Nickelodeon Studios opening up in Florida, and they just weren't able to justify the production cost of having something outside. But those are my fun facts. You knew them all.
Yeah.
I see your face. You knew them all.
I did. I knew those facts. So my co-host Jess she gets deep into researching this show. And then we have been so lucky somehow in this wild universe that we live in that we have been able to talk to a lot of folks who made the show or were on the show. And I've heard a lot of interesting things from some of the writers and some of the actors on the show. And it just sounds like it was a blast to be a part of this. As a teenager, they were living in Tucson. They were basically filming on a school calendar. So they would get the summers, go home, be with family, and then they would get holidays. But they were in Tucson. They were living at a Ramada. And they had their rooms. They would decorate their rooms at home, like dorms almost. And then eventually they upgraded to the Radisson, I think. But yeah,
the Ramada was the Ritz of the 90s, right?
Was the Ritz of the 90s. But so these teens out there living all day, three days for an episode. So they were working really, really hard in the very, very hot weather. They're on location at the Tanque Verde Ranch, which still operates today. The set was on a different part of the property, but our understanding is that we can get a set tour because a lot of it is still standing when we go out there in November.
Oh, that's super exciting.
Yeah. It's all been pretty well abandoned and it's, quite dilapidated at this point, but there are some pieces of the set, the buildings that are still there. So
Do you plan on
really
grabbing
excited.
a piece?
yeah, I might. I might. I think I deserve it.
You do. I mean, at this point,
I
you can
have
just
kept-
say you can either confirm or deny for legality reasons, but do it.
Yeah, I might have to
We support it
Scoop
for
a
what
little-
it's worth.
scoop a little dirt at least into a jar and keep it on my nightstand.
Yeah, you got to break in the clothes.
Now,
Mhm.
you said you watched this, and this was kind of your awakening with Ted. Did you start with the first episode?
I don't know. It's all really, it's going to come down to timing of when did we get cable actually turned on, plugged in. It was around 89, which is when this show came out. Was I there for the original airing of the first episode? I'm not sure, but it did run in syndication for a long time.
Right.
So I have seen every one of these episodes a gajillion times.
Because with this first episode, they paint him with a very broad brush of awful.
You know, that old awful
awful.
brush.
Like, literally, he comes in. First thing, it's like, hey, like he comes in, he's riding with Mr. Wilson, which, do we get to meet Mr. Wilson later, or is that just a throwaway?
No, there were a lot of throwaway names in this first episode. I think they were trying to give the illusion that there are actually adults there besides Mr. Ernst and Lucy.
Yeah.
But you very rarely, until later into, maybe season 2 or 3, do you even really see many adult extras.
Okay.
That
So-
really taps into Nickelodeon's just vacant parents. We've talked about some episodes where, like, the parents were so, like, the adults were just so vacant, whether that meant they were
Oh my
physically
gosh.
not there or mentally not there.
There are quite a few episodes of Hey Dude where parents literally just drop their kids off at the ranch and then leave.
Yeah, this wasn't even as a parent. He hitched a ride with someone.
Yep.
And at that point, he finds out he's been made a senior staff member, which no one knows what that means. They don't know what his responsibilities are. He assumes he's going to have it easy. And then that's when he immediately is met with Bradley or Brad, and she is dressed to the nines. Like, at one end, I'm like, she shows that she knows what she's doing, but she's also dressing like she doesn't know what she's doing. So,
Well, he doesn't know at this point who
Right.
Brad is.
but like,
The moment I saw her, that was the moment I wanted to be her.
I wanted to be her, like, just the
adore her.
elegance she had. Like, she basically comes out of a limousine. So she has
Limousine.
she has this air of I'm fancy, but then she's like, no, I got my bags, bitch, get back in the car. Which actually, this reminds me. So, Teresa, I don't know if you knew this. I worked for like 7-8 years at a comedy club here in Charlotte, North Carolina, and a random time, I don't even know why, but they're like, hey, we need you to go pick up Kevin Pollak, who is. Yeah, okay, so you know who he is. Perfect. So, for those who don't, he's a comedian and an actor. You would have seen him in A Few Good Men, in The Unusual Suspects, just a whole bunch of films that he's just fantastic in. So, I'm sitting there. This is the first time I felt a little starstruck. Like, this is like a Hollywood actor, not just comedian. And so, he comes to the hotel, and I opened the door for him, and he was like, shut the fuck up. No, shut the door. I can open it myself. And he roasted me. Like, he wasn't even mean. He was just roasting me for trying to treat him with this respect of, I'm going to open the door for you. And this brought that to me of like, no, I know I'm a big deal, but don't fucking like baby me. And so I immediately respected her. I wanted to be her.
Oh, she was everything. I just thought she was an angel on earth. Kelly Brown, who plays Brad, is even cooler than Brad, if you can believe it. She's
Really?
amazing.
She
Yes,
owns
she's a fantastic
she owns her
person.
own clothing line. Am I getting that
She
wrong?
does.
Okay,
She
okay.
does. In Montauk. She
Very
has
cool.
her own clothing boutique. Yeah.
She dressed
this-
in
the
that show like she
style-
owned her
It
clothing
tracks, yeah.
boutique.
It tracks. Though Kelly Brown's actual style is a lot better than the style of the young women on this show most of the time.
They had to play into a certain
The
viewpoint.
90s were a time of
They were a
apparel
time, and I
choices.
think they wanted to dress them somewhat modestly. So there are a lot of scarves happening. There are a lot of shorts that are very long and tall,
Yes.
up the waist and toward the knees. There's a lot of exciting fashion happening. in Hey Dude.
I think jorts are coming back. Mullets are definitely coming back.
Really
Mustaches are coming back.
Mm-hmm.
So like we talked about at the top of the hour, it's, the time for 90s nostalgia.
Well,
it is.
Well, this is where they start painting Ted with a broad brush of awful, where he's I could understand why he was like, oh, hey, you seem like a guest. So I want to make sure I'm taking care of you. But he is laying it on thick. Like he's sitting there almost like belittling her as like, oh, well, you don't know what you should do and let me take care of you. And of course she's like, this bitch, hey, you know what? Why don't you go? I don't even remember what she says, but all I remember is that he falls into a trough. And it's not the first time he falls into a trough. I know on your show, you're wrapping up on season 3. Is that what I'm understanding?
Mm-hmm. We are, yeah, right now.
What is the counter or the count for how often he's fallen in the trough?
Okay, so we, after watching the first episode, and you'll hear it in our first episode of Yay Dude, we guessed that Ted's going to fall in a trough 11 times over the course of the 5 seasons. And we had good reason to believe that in this episode. It was very trough heavy. We are not at 11 at this point, and especially because Ted leaves the show for a while. He goes to summer school, is the way he's written off, when David Lasher takes a break. So we have not hit 11, but he has fallen in a trough more than a person should. I'll say that much. So we're like about halfway there with what we call trough incidents. So we are keeping track. I will let you know in a couple more seasons if we make it. A lot of people fall in troughs, though, for folks who should know where the troughs are located.
Well, they keep walking backwards into them, I feel like.
Yeah, they do a lot of backwards walking. But
is that just the line dancing that they're growing up with, and they're just overcome with the music of the desert?
That could be it.
It is funny, though. You'll see... you can see who the director is on certain episodes, and you can know there's going to be a lot more trough incidents. There were 2 directors on this show, and one was very cerebral, and you would get the philosophical conversations that you would have with your child after they watched it.
Serious
and
episodes.
then there were the now you're going to fall in a trough on this one. So
I need your podcast to have like a sign that says it has been X amount of days since a trough incident.
Yes, that is basically what we do.
Yeah.
Well, at this point, we're starting to be introduced to the other characters of the story. We're first met with Danny Lightfoot, played by Joe Torres, which there is so many conspiracy theories about Joe Torres. Just for pretext, once the show was done, he just vanished, and no one knows where he is.
Yeah. I think somebody probably knows, because the best information that we have is that he is alive and well. So I'm sure someone knows that he's okay. But I will tell you, the cast and crew don't know. I thought maybe that was just something that they were saying. They had a reunion a few years back, and no, nobody knows where Joe is. They actually do not know, which is crazy in this day and age to be able to just go off grid like that. But he does not want to be found. That much we know, but we do like to speculate about where he could be.
Well, he was already my favorite character just of the show. And especially in this episode, he basically sneaks in fry bread for Ted. And that's when you find out that Ted told him to basically make a pizza out of fry bread, which sounds amazing.
Yeah. Ted is yeah. He's a special guy. I don't think you say like, oh, they already paint him in such a way that you can tell he's just awful. I don't think that's what they were doing. This is the 90s. I think he was painted in a way that was like, oh, very attractive, right? Like this goofy guy who's just flies by the seat of his pants. I never, and Jess watched this, my co-host, she watched this later than I did. She didn't start it from the beginning in 1989. And her feelings toward Ted are a little bit more evolved than mine. Even to this day, I'm a Ted apologist because I have such fond feelings of him. He can do something totally awful, which he does in many episodes of this show. And I'm like, oh, but that's fine. It's just Ted. He's just being Ted.
That's kind of the vibe I was getting because
Yeah.
both like Danny adores him, Melody adores him, and I know she was basically trying to work at jumping ahead. Apologize to Brad's like, yeah, that's just Ted. You get to know him and you realize he's okay. And like, what are the okay parts? Okay, yeah, you're right. He is pretty bad, but and so I understand he does have those moments of it's like, okay, look at him, oh. But just the way they laid it on thick of setting up Brad has nothing but disdain for him. Like at this point, Ted is sitting there wanting to impress her because he still thinks she's a guest. He doesn't even like give her a chance, and she goes, you know what, I could break in any of these horses. And cut back, I'm jumping around just because this was so much for me. This is my first experience with Hey Dude, and I loved it. And
That's great, right?
Right. And so you hear the kids getting together, Melody and Danny and Ted, and they hear this horse bucking wild, and they're like, oh, that horse has been broken in. And that's when you're introduced to Lucy, who is the instructor there. One of the two adults you'll get to know. And at that point, she was like, no, Ted, fuck off. I see that look in your eyes. Do not touch that horse. We got a new owner. And that's very much laid across of like, oh, there's a new owner, there's a new owner, there's a new owner. This new owner's going to listen to me. Don't fuck around. You're going to find out. And she literally said it in the show. I was like, Nickelodeon, you're edgy.
She said that, yeah.
She said that, yeah.
She said, yeah, she does. Lucy and Brad, they're both tough bitches, I'll say. Like, either one of those two women, I would not mess around with.
Oh, those
If
are
you
the
do, you'll
women
end up in a trough.
Yes. But at that point, you have Ted trying to show off to Brad. He's like, I could break in any of these horses. And she goes, okay, do Rocket. She points to the horse that he was told specifically not to fuck around with. And he goes, all right, I got this. And nearly gets trampled. Like, that was like, oh my goodness, are they killing off the main character in the first episode? They did Game of Thrones better than Game of Thrones did.
Takes a very dark turn.
It took a very dark turn.
It does.
And luckily he is spared. He gets saved. But that doesn't rattle him enough like it should. It's not like, oh my goodness, what am I doing? It was, I need to do it again.
Can we talk about the 90s editing technique of the freeze frame before the commercial break?
Good. It's
Can we
so
bring
good,
that back?
right?
Yes.
Oh, that is one of my favorite freeze frames, was the moment of Ted. And then this is where Brad comes in and just says, yeah, and then saves the day, right? Because that works.
It always works.
I
Yeah,
mean,
if you see it,
why
listen,
there
if
is-
you're trying to break up
Did
a
you
fight,
ride horses growing up?
Did I have horses?
Or ride horses, yeah.
No, did I ride horses? I was like a summer rider. We would go like a week, maybe. I mean, we went to a dude ranch when I was a kid, and we would do some things like that where I'd go like a couple times a summer. I was not really a horse girl. My co-host Jess was our resident horse girl. She very much loved horses.
I love the Venn
as a child.
diagram you have.
Yeah.
It's
Were you a horse girl and born in the 90s?
And you like
Yeah.
consuming television, right?
Yeah. Yeah. You like 90s horses, Nickelodeon, Lisa Frank. Yeah, we're the show for you. Yeah, I love the freeze frame. I also love the fact that this is a guest ranch and they've got just a wild bucking bronco just loose.
Why not? But listen, as long as you say ya, you will break up any. It would be helpful if you said ya, baby, to really, it'll get you out of anything.
Well, I mean, that's what I have to say to Teddy. If he's getting rambunctious, I'm like, yeah, and he stops. He looks thoroughly confused. I think that's what it is. You're confusing the horse. Like, what are you doing? This is weird.
I need to try that.
We
I
just
haven't tried that
talked
technique.
about this actually earlier this morning. We said, why resort to? It's not the same thing. Why resort to violence when you can turn to confusion? So I think it will work every time.
It does.
They're saying
Yeah,
that now.
so-
People are saying
Don't
that.
seek violence, seek confusion.
Yeah.
Confusion. Well, they definitely confused this horse, Rocket, this wild bucking bronco.
Right. It blew my mind. But at that point, Ted is covered in dirt. And he's sitting there, and that's when he's introduced to Mr. Ernst and his kid. I think the kid's name is Buddy, if I'm not mistaken.
Oh, yeah, buddy.
And so at that point, you're like, oh, hey, you're my senior staff. Cool. Why are you dirty? Why do you look like you've been rolling in the dirt? Oh, it's how I and Danny not even thinking, just being like, oh, he's trying to break in the horse, and he gets cut off because Ted's like, no, I'm breaking in my clothes, and it becomes this whole ruse where like every time he tries to ride the horse or he gets dunked into the trough, they're like, what are you doing with your clothes? I'm trying to break it in. Well, man, this is an arduous journey.
And Danny doesn't support this behavior out of Ted, so he gets this opportunity to kind of troll him, like, oh yeah, so he can break in his clothes, and he scoops dirt from the ground and starts putting more dirt on his clothing. He's like, yeah.
Danny has a much higher wisdom score than Ted.
At this point, I wouldn't be surprised if everyone had I would be surprised if Mr. Ernst didn't have a higher wisdom.
Yeah, that's a good question. Because Mr. Ernst is a buffoon. He is painted as an utter buffoon.
Yes.
He is such a doof. He's played by David Brisbane, who was like a very, I think actually classically trained actor, and was on the set, like very professional, hitting his mark. And then a bunch of kids who didn't, this was their first job. Buddy, Josh Tigel, who plays Buddy, and Joe Torres, who plays Danny, they were both local, Tucson talent, newspaper ad respondees, and that's how they got on Hey Dude. So, yeah, just a very
can we say
interesting.
He gave off Jeff Goldblum vibes in that episode, and in the show in general. It just
Mr. Ernst,
yeah, Mr. Ernst, just the way he looked, the way he acted. I was like, this is giving me Jeff Goldblum vibes, and I approve.
So you were awakened, is what you're saying.
Yeah. Jeff Goldblum is a sexually amazing man.
I don't think I would. I'm not in disagreement about Jeff Goldblum, but I can't get there with David Brisbane.
Yeah, I want to validate
Jeff
you,
Goldblum
Ty,
from Wish. Fine.
From The Fly?
I was all with you on Jeff Goldblum, though. Definitely. Cheers to Jeff Goldblum.
Absolutely.
Cheers to Jeff Goldblum.
Which we're going to take a turn and talk about Jeff Goldblum for an hour real quick, and we'll come back to Hey Dude, right?
Mm-hmm.
Okay. 1, 2, 3. Promo. Put some upbeat music in there.
And I'll get a narrator. I'll fly in Tom Hanks.
Oh, great idea.
Right? He'll do it. I'm actually going to call him up right now on the podcast phone.
Okay, cool.
Ring-a-ling. Hey, Tom.
Hey.
Oh, did you want to talk to him privately?
Oh, okay.
He said no. Okay, it's back to you and me.
Hey, dudes, listen up. This is your friend Jess and my friend T. We host a podcast called Yay Dude. It's a rewatch podcast about the 1989 to 1991 television sitcom.
You didn't have any other octave for your voice to go to.
Oh, no, it's your turn now.
Oh, okay. Do you want me to start at the top and go down? And in this show, we talk about tropes. Jess, it's really fun to talk about this show, Hey Dude, with you, because we used to talk about it in our bunk beds when we were college roommates, and that is where we became best friends. And now, weekly, we get to discuss this thing again as nearly 40-year-old women who still think it's the best show.
It is one of the greatest pleasures in my life. Our show, Yay Dude, is about several things.
We do trough watch to see who falls in a trough. It happens more than you think.
Yeah.
We do Joe Torres watch. Jess, where's Joe Torres?
Nobody knows, but we sure speculate on it.
We speculate wildly.
We have one other segment that we do pretty regularly called the Etymology Corral, where we explore the word origins of things like
dude.
Did you know where that came from?
I do now because I listen to the show, Jess. I sometimes say stuff that's not true.
I, on the other hand, am infallible.
Jess is the infallible one. I'm Teresa, and I'm the idiot. Jess's mom stopped listening to this show because I can't pronounce cactus names.
Thanks for tuning in.
You can find us wherever you get your podcasts. You know what, Jess?
Yeah.
You don't have to watch Hey Dude along with us to enjoy this show.
Don't you?
No, you can just listen and enjoy it. Or you can also find Hey Dude on various platforms for purchase or streaming and watch along with us. Still, the show holds up.
Who needs Melody and Brad when you've got your new BFFs, T and Jess?
Ooh, I like that.
That was good, wasn't it?
That was good.
I can't wait to have you join us.
Yay, dude.
All right, so we're now back from talking about
Yeah, baby.
Yeah, baby.
That's the other guest you're gonna have on from the podcast, Yay Goldblum,
Yay
right?
Goldblum.
Oh, I would
Yeah.
love to have him. Oh my goodness.
He keeps calling
Let me
us,
say
but
that, have
it's
him on
always
the
at a
show,
bad
not
time,
just have him.
you know?
Although I wouldn't mind having him, but it's.
It's a yes and yeah.
Oh man. So at this point, we have Ted trying to come up with the plan. So he's trying to get Melody and Joe, Danny, involved in wrangling in this horse. So he's trying to get this rope in, and before he even gets a chance to do it, he falls in the trough. And again, gotta explain, this is about bringing in my clothes. And then can we just bring it in? You said that Mr. Ernst is a dunce, which wholeheartedly agree. He's sitting there trying to find his office. But won't just flat out ask him, hey, where's my office? He's like, hey, I've made a chart of your duties, which will be in my office. Yeah, they will be at the front of my office. Like if you just go to my office, it will be there. Could you just tell me where my office is? I almost feel for Ted and Danny at this point, because they're like, can you just ask us where the office is? And apparently it's the only building with air conditioning, which I'm like, ooh, I don't know if I could handle being on a dude ranch. I need shade because I burn too easily.
Oh, yeah. We were talking about this morning, how Ty got a moonburn.
Yeah.
Oh, my.
I was out on a full moon, came back, and my skin was burnt. I got moonburnt. That's how pasty white I am. Yeah. You're Polish. I'm Scotch, Irish, Welsh, and German. I'm just, if my ancestry was just a race, it's white. Not even like Caucasian, just white.
I feel you. My worst parenting that I've done to date was I very hastily put some sunscreen on my son's back with a stick, like a sunscreen stick. Oh. And basically,
I just thought you got a branch.
You just broke a branch off and dipped it in some coconuts.
No, with a sunscreen stick. And I did I didn't try hard enough. And I knew I wasn't trying hard enough, but I just thought it's fine. We won't be out here for very long. And the sunburn that kid got, it was so embarrassing. And I think the worst part was just that I would make him wear a shirt then for the next month, because why do I have to wear a shirt swimming? Because everybody's going to think I'm a bad mom. It's so bad. Just stripes.
You have tan stripes, tan lines.
Oh my God, it was horrible.
They're not horrible. It was just a unintended consequence of what you were trying to do. I was just I don't want him to feel like I'm smothering him with lotion or
yes.
You were trying to be there for him.
Ty is the reframing master.
I really like that reframe. Thank you. It's not totally accurate.
It's not that you fell. It's not that I pushed you in the trough. It's that you fell via my arms into the trough.
You ran into my arm and then fell into the trough.
Yeah.
So at this point, we have Melody meets Brad. And Melody is like, hey, she also thinks that she's a guy. It's like, hey, you're in the wrong spot. And she goes, no, I'm actually I'm a horse instructor here. And she's like, oh, you're gorgeous and amazing. And I'm so glad you're here. And they immediately bond. And immediately she's like, oh, there was a self-entitled prick trying to hit on me. She was self-entitled prick hitting on women. That's Ted. Just immediately knew if someone's insulting someone in that way, it's got to be Ted.
Gotta be.
Yeah, well, I mean, that's why I said that broad brush of awful, because they know. It's like, hey, if someone's complaining about a dude, it's got to be Ted.
And to be fair, it's only 50-50 guess at that point.
Who's the other 50?
I mean, it's not Danny. So
who could complain about Danny? He's the best.
He is the best. He should have been senior staff. And that's actually
That's what I never understood. Why is Ted senior staff? It just has to be that Ted has been there longer. Also, it's the only way.
I mean, do they bring it up in future episodes? Because I feel Go ahead.
They bring up the fact that their other teens want to be senior staff. They never explain what does it mean. What is the difference in that job? But I know it's it's important to them. But the other actors characters will talk about it later. Still don't know what they do and what happened when Ted left. Did they have to rehire? I have no idea.
I mean, at this point, both Danny and Melody are like, we don't know what senior staff means. What does that mean?
Right.
They're thoroughly confused. And so at that point,
me too, for what it's worth. Yes.
At that point, we have Ted and Danny touring buddy. They're basically just showing him around and like, hey, so now that we've like showed you around, you owe us a favor. Can you tell us about your dad? And that's when we find out that Mr. Ernst is just an accountant who was like, hey, I have some money. Let's just get a ranch. I feel like it's going to take me places. And it's at that point, I feel like Danny and Ted just are like, okay, he's not someone to like respect and know what he's doing. They have their judgments already in play.
An accountant, not even from the Southwest. He's from he says New York. We find out later probably is from New Jersey, but
oh no,
neither here nor there. It does bother me. Like if you're from New Jersey, say you're from New Jersey.
Definitely here, but not there, as they say.
So yeah, they definitely are painting him out to be unqualified. And I think you picked that up from the teens there that what's this guy doing?
Do you have locations out west that you could compare the New York, New Jersey thing? Where you would say, you'd want to say you're from here, but you're really from here?
Well, I personally do it. I'm from Tacoma, Washington, which I just always tell people I'm from Seattle. Unless I say, oh, I'm from Seattle. And then somebody says, oh, me too. And then I'm like, no, I'm not actually. No, I'm not. Like, now you know. Yeah. But generally those people understand like, oh, yeah, well, we have to because it's a smaller city. Though I don't think people in New York would have the same grace. Like, I think New Yorkers very much, you are a New Yorker, you're not, so don't pretend, right? Where that's not the same feeling that Seattleites have, so I don't feel quite as bad, but...
They're called Seattleites?
Mm-hmm.
I was this many days old. What's today?
At least I think so. That's what I've always said. But again, I'm not from there. I just say that I am.
Just quote yourself. And you're like, that's what people say. I mean, that's what I say.
TM. There we go.
Are we charlatans? I know we're charlatans, but I don't like that.
I prefer charlatans. I feel like that gives us an edge. It's like, oh no, he's a charlatan.
Yeah, feels right.
Ooh, that's an edge. That's gangster shit right there. Speaking of gangster shit, Ted tries his second time. And at this point, I love how you have both Danny and Melody and even Brad just sitting there worried about him. And then it's just like, oh, he's finally like escaped. He's no longer in danger. And they just laugh at him. No longer are they like worried about him. They're like, now we got to mock you, man. Yeah, you fucked up. And
does anybody actually ever take the horse and like properly pin the horse somewhere?
I think it's Brad at the end. She finally is able to calm it down and ride it.
Does Lucy?
Yeah, but then I think it's just loose the rest of the time.
Maybe.
I don't know. It's not a well-run ranch. Like at no point in this series ever is it well-run.
But why would a well-run ranch be a great television show?
Yeah, and then that's the rub, right? Of course, but it's not a ranch. Well, I say this, it is a ranch I'm actually going to visit, but it's not a ranch that I don't think it would be a good place to vacation. Lots of things happen in the next 5 seasons that
it
make
would
me
not
think,
have the best Yelp reviews.
I would not be well taken care of here.
That's probably where Danny is, and no one has thought to look there.
Well, we'll see. I'll let you know in a couple of months.
Yeah,
he might be. He could be.
I mean, you said he was from there, right?
He's from Tucson. Yeah,
he's still
could
there.
be. He could
just
still
go
be
to a brewery after a show, and he's just right there. What do you do?
Oh my God. Well, Jess and I have talked about this. Like, would we even know it's him if he was wearing a different kind of hat? If he's not wearing a cowboy hat, and we swap it for like a baseball cap, would we actually even recognize him? And I don't know that we would. So we're going to really have to just ask everybody that we meet in Tucson if they're Joe Torres.
I like to think he still looks the same.
Probably does.
Just hasn't aged.
He's got that beautiful, luscious locks of hair.
Yeah.
He does, right? They all have a very fluffy, luscious hair. We comment a lot about Melody's hair, too. It's just like how thick it is. She has so many braids.
No humidity.
Amazing.
That's the key.
Oh, yeah. There you go.
Yeah.
Oh, look at you, Sean. Oh, you glorious.
just
glorious
doing science
man.
stuff, It's fine.
It's science.
It's cool. It's fine.
Well, we finally get to where Ted's had enough of Brad and starts yelling at her, just like trying to call her out. It's like, look, you think you're some like, like gets in her face. And that's when she's like, bitch, I work here. I'm the horse trainer. You wouldn't even talk to me like before that. And he goes, you never told me. He's like, because you wouldn't fucking listen. And immediately it puts him in his place. So then he's like, you know what? Fuck it. I'm going to prove you wrong. And he tries to do it one last time and fucking is thrown off. And that's when he sees, he gets thrown in the mud. And somebody just thrown off. He gets thrown in the mud. And that's when
Can we be honest? It's actually probably horse shit mixed with mud.
Oh,
It's
no.
really
That's
gross.
even worse.
Right?
And then he
Is that called
sees,
shud?
It's got shit in it.
Yeah.
and then he sees Brad hop onto the horse and like calm the horse and then ride it and like calms it down. And he's sitting there falling in love while he's covered in mud and now horse shit. That is the kind of confidence you have that you're covered in horse shit. And you're like, I can still fall in love right now.
Oh. Ted has a ton of unearned confidence.
Well,
like that is probably his best quality.
Confidence is but a stone's throw away from stupidity.
Unearned confidence is probably the most accurate term I've ever heard.
Yeah, that's how I would describe it for sure.
Now, one of the things,
that moment where she jumps up there, like it's just a badass. Oh my god!
I mean, I fell
wouldn't
in
you
love.
fall in love?
I
Right?
did.
We all
Yes.
did. Yeah, I think we all did. Amazing.
That's why I was like,
and
you
she
fell in love
actually
with
could
Ted?
ride. Kelly
Yeah.
Brown could ride.
She was one of
she was,
like what, 2 people who could actually ride?
Yeah, her and Lucy, or Deb Kalman, who played Lucy, they actually knew how to ride horses. The rest of them, like, there were just horses running around. They didn't know
So
much of anything about them.
Did they lie on their resume, or was it just like, oh, that's not important?
I don't think it was probably terribly important.
Ty, let me put it this way. It's kind of like you get hired for all these things, and then it's like, do you know Excel? And you're kind of like, yeah?
Yeah.
And then they hire you anyway, because they just hope that maybe you kind of have seen an Excel spreadsheet before.
Well, because what I've
a Bronco.
seen, so both Sean and I have worked in the film industry. So what I've seen is people like, oh, hey, yeah, I could totally do this. Okay, cool, we're gonna pick you. Oh, fuck. And now they gotta learn how to do
Now
it.
they have to learn. Mm-hmm.
So that's
They actually read opposite. When Kelly Brown and Christine Taylor auditioned, they read for each other's eventual parts. And then they had them switch at the table read. And we're like, why don't you try this one? This seems like it might fit better. And then that's what they went with. But yeah, they actually auditioned for opposite parts. It's hard.
really
It's really
exciting.
hard for me to imagine Christine Taylor
is.
playing Brad.
yeah, it's very hard to imagine that. It's kind of hard to imagine Kelly Brown being Melody.
Oh yeah,
Yeah.
that one is even harder to imagine for sure.
Now, what I really love about this show is how they have kind of like it's not even like a end credit scene. It's just like, hey, the story's done, but we got a little something fun for you. And at this point, they had played about Mr. Ernst wearing these cowboy boots, but not have broken them in. So his feet are just in pain. And so like, hey, Danny, what is this? We found this. And he goes, oh, that's for like that's a horse dressing. So it's for like sores and rod and all this fun stuff. He goes, do you think it'll work on people? And Danny gives the most politically correct response he can. He goes, I mean, I wouldn't, but they're your feet. You can do whatever you want. And of course, Mr. Ernst's like, okay, well, I want to try this. And he puts his feet in, and it starts off with like, oh, that's exactly what I needed. And then it hits. Like just 1, 2, 3. Ah! And he screams, and that's the end. And I appreciate, because that's not the first time, because we watched another episode which will actually be on your podcast. So hey guys, make sure you subscribe to Yay Dude, because we'll be on there next.
Yes.
So-
It's going to be a great episode. That one is wildly different, but
Oh my
still
goodness.
has the same buffoonish Mr. Ernst, again, played by David Brisbane, who gives us a classic David Brisbane face at the end there. The freeze on his face when he's got his feet in that bucket. There's so many opportunities to see his face do these amazing contortions like that. This guy is a pro.
I'm also like halfway wanting to just take those 3 frames, but next time on Dragon Ball Z, as David was like, that would just make my day. So if you guys want to do that and then send it to us, we'll put it on our social media.
Oh, I like that. Yeah, this show has some really great tags. Those little last bits. I have learned recently that I don't, the writing, the way that this show was written, it was not a union show. There was no writer's room. There were writers who would write a bunch of scripts and then send them. And there was a writer on location who would handle, any rewrites that would come up, and they would often write the tag or the cold open, and kind of make it all become cohesive. And they were not paid very much, maybe, I don't know, like $6,000 per script. And that's basically it. That's all they saw from the episode. They don't get any residuals now.
I mean, if they're filming in just 3 days, I imagine they're not giving writers a lot of time. It was
low budget. Yeah. For sure. And not a lot of time for these scripts. But that's often, you do get some continuity with the writer who is actually on set. And for a couple of seasons, it was Graham Yost, who you will probably recognize the name. He wrote Speed.
Okay, I did recognize the name.
Yeah, he wrote Justified, a few other things. I think he did Silo, which is out now. So yeah, he's a very, very good screenwriter. He's done some amazing stuff, and you will see a lot of Yost. We say post Graham Yost. Like, you'll see a lot of what we say is Yostinian touches, and it's these kinds of things, like these goofy tags, or folks falling in troughs and some of that stuff that you'll see sprinkled. Oh, I'm sorry, sprinkled throughout Hey Dude, and it's a lot of fun. But yeah, you do get some wildly different episodes because they had so many different writers. So this one was, I don't remember who wrote this first episode. Do you have that handy?
I do not, but if you give me like 5 seconds.
Really solid pilot. You don't always get that.
I was going to ask you guys, what did you think about this as a pilot? Would you have kept watching?
So I have a different experience than Ty. I mean, I did watch I think I picked off. I don't remember where I started either. So I did keep watching as a kid here and there, but as Nickelodeon nostalgia goes, it unlocked some core memories. So I liked it as a pilot. It definitely kept me wanting to figure out, like, okay, I'll keep going.
This was written by Alan Goodman.
Alan Goodman. Yep. Alan Goodman.
Good man.
And
I
agree. Like, if I had seen this pilot, I would keep watching. Like, I'm kind of mad I didn't watch the show as a kid. Like, it's one of those things where I'm like, fuck it, I missed out on this. It was fun.
Yeah.
It was a lot
Were
of fun.
you, I don't know how old you were when this one came out. I mean, I know it was on syndication for a while, so you could have picked it up at any time. But I feel like I was at the very youngest age for this show. I think if I had been much younger or had not had older siblings, it might have gone a little over my head. There was a lot of will they, won't they between Ted and Brad. There was a lot of kind of heavier content later on.
So I'm an 88 baby. I was born in 88.
Okay.
So I missed it. So I kind of came up missing this, but then getting on with Clarissa Explains It All, and then The Adventures of Alex Mack. The Secret Life of Alex Mack.
Alex Mack Explains It All.
Alex Mack Explains It All. So it's one of those things where I wish I would have seen this syndicated. As in, like, that. I'm already past when it was airing, but I would have enjoyed watching this. This was a lot of fun. It was kind of like The Adventures of Pete and Pete, where I missed it because I was too young. But now that I'm older, I'm like, oh, this slaps, I think is what the cool kids say.
That cool kids used to say that.
They did used to say that. What do they say now?
Yeah. No, I definitely think this was a really solid pilot. The next episode 2, is, you talked, Sean, about unlocking a core memory. Episode 2 is a core memory for me, for sure. One of my favorites. And I do think that this whole show kicked off really strong, which is a great thing. And that they made them so quickly and were able to keep them churning out. You get really connected and invested in the characters. And as we've been rewatching episodes that I think later on, if I had done them as a cold watch, I would have thought this is not that good. But now I'm so invested and in love with the characters and the pace of the show and everything that I give it a lot of grace in some episodes later on. But overall, it's a good show. It really is. I don't mind watching it. It's fun to do for a rewatch, but Like we watch it as a family now, and I take my notes and yeah.
And that
it's great.
timelessness is like such a key ingredient. Like if you can make something timeless, like that's what you need. Now I know that's
Totally.
very easy to say. What does timeless mean, right? But I think for what we've seen, as I guess Ty and I, novice viewers of the show, it feels very timeless.
It does. They tried to do some things that were pushing the edges a little bit, which I appreciate. They didn't always do it well or gracefully, but they do talk a lot throughout the series about Danny being a Hopi Indian, and some of the different challenges that he faces because of that, which is like a lot of what I learned, and I'm sure not the only kid about these challenges in Indigenous communities. I'm like, I learned that from Hey Dude. And was Hey Dude, were the writers of that show the perfect people to be doing that? Probably not. But for, 1990, that's pretty good. So they did some stuff that was a little different. And what I like is that I think that they treated kids with a little bit more respect in terms of, yeah, they can handle this. These are things that kids are actually thinking about. We can write about this, even though they're young. It's okay. They'll like it, and we did.
Well, I don't know if you ever watched the documentary The Orange Years. They actually talk about how that was the basis. So when they had their CEO, they're like, "Hey, let's not talk to kids like they're dumb," and that's one of the reasons why Nickelodeon gravitated me, was just, it was like, hey, you're not treating me like dumb. You're having those harder conversations that I never would have been able to experience before. Because like my parents were going to talk about the Hopi Indians. My parents were going to teach me about fry bread. And so here we go. And now I feel like Nickelodeon offers that, where it's like, we're not going to talk to you like you're dumb. We might have some shows that feel like they're dumb, but we're not going to treat you like you are.
Right. They make you feel seen.
Totally.
Like they said in that documentary too, like it must be so hard to be a kid. And that's, how seen do you feel? So I think we all went to the school of Nickelodeon as children.
Absolutely. Because it sounds like you do too. Like I parent like that. Like I parent in the, hey, I might talk to you about this with language that is more suited for a child, but I'm not going to shy away from a topic because you're a child.
Right.
And that's how I feel Hey Dude and a lot of the Nickelodeon shows treated us. And I think that there's a reason why those of us who grew up watching it might be parenting that way. Jess and I, my co-hosts, we had a conversation with one of the writers and one of the actors on the show, Lisa Malamed, who wrote a lot of episodes you'll see later on, and Kelly Brown, who played Brad. And, that was very much Lisa's philosophy is, treat kids like they're real people and talk about things that matter to them. And she wrote a lot about the relationship between Brad and Melody as two female friends, which is not often something you see in media, especially back then. So I really appreciate that too. So.
Well, we are coming to our end, so I want to make sure, if you guys want to see, and I highly recommend checking it out, you want to go to Yay Dude, which is, I believe, on Spotify, Apple Podcasts, really anywhere you guys have podcasts. But really anywhere as far as the socials. Teresa, go ahead and give that shout out. We want to give you that airtime.
Oh my gosh. Yeah. Come join us as we watch every episode of Hey Dude. We have skipped one that we'll come back to at some point. But yeah, we have social media on Instagram. We got kicked off of Facebook for some reason.
What?
We don't know why. I think that the algorithm thought we were the shoe brand. I don't know. We're not on Facebook anymore.
We have to talk about that, because when I looked up Hey Dude, it pulled, it's a shoe brand. It's an Italian shoe brand, I think is what it was. Or at least the owners were Italian. But yeah, like when I tried to type in Hey Dude, I had to type in like Hey Dude Show.
And then it corrects it to shoe. Yeah, it's a challenge.
Why is the shoe getting more love than the show?
Why is the shoe called Hey Dude? I have a lot of questions.
I don't know.
So a lot of spaghetti westerns, I know a lot of spaghetti westerns were actually filmed in Italy. And so I feel like that's what that angle was. But the fact that that's getting more love than the show itself blows my mind.
Yeah, just give it time. It's shows like ours and the Paramount Plus ability to rewatch everything. That's gonna flip that, and we'll get we'll get the search engines to put the show back up at the top where it should be. But yeah, you can find us on Instagram at YayDudeCast. You can email us at YayDudeCast. No, let me try that again. You can email us at yaydudecast@gmail.com. Again, can't find us on Facebook, but it could be, and we have speculated, we got too close to figuring out where Joe Torres is, and he had Mark Zuckerberg take us down.
That's it.
So it could be that.
Where can we find your shoes?
Oh, my shoes. All over the floor, if you ask my spouse. He hates it. Yeah, no, we have a lot of fun. I think when this one comes out, for Whiskeylodeon, we will be just packing our bags to head to the Tanque Verde Ranch. So this is going to be awesome timing. If you tune in, you will hear us return from our travels and tell you all about the real life set and anybody that we're able to find in the Tucson area that can tell us anything about where Joe Torres might be.
And then you won't be able to find
So
that
stay tuned.
podcast at all because it will be taken off because it got too close.
That's what I'm thinking.
This
I
Hey
don't know.
Dude, it is way deeper than anyone knows.
It goes deep.
It goes
It's
deep.
really, it's pretty incredible. And I also I don't know if I can make a plug for another podcast hosted by Christine Taylor and David Lasher called Hey Dude, the 90s Called. You will get a lot of information about Hey Dude, but they also do, they have guests on who do, they had Melissa Joan Hart on as we talk about Teresa. So you're going to get a lot of inside scoop about other Nickelodeon shows as well. Because the 90s, man, I'm so glad they're making a comeback. It was the best time.
Speaking of coming back,
Nickelodeon.
we are actually going to have a part 2, which will be on the Yay Dude podcast. So
Yeah.
absolutely make sure you follow, not only to see their amazing content, but we're going to be there next. So all that's really left for us to do now is just cheers and say bottoms up.
Bottoms up, baby.
Baby.
I feel like Sean's going to call me Bebe from now on.
did it that
Baby.
time.
You did it. You drank all of that at once?
You did?
Oh,
That's amazing.
you are a champ, but also, bitch, why aren't you drinking during the show?